I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
Catch free.
I'm having a great day.
So we are talking about Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds video game movie. As I said before, it's the GTA movie I've always wanted.
You know, I have tried many times over the years to play various GTA games, all the way from the first GTA on up.
Mm-hmm.
And to borrow from Lewis Black back in the day when he tried to review a GTA game, I have never gotten very far in any of the GTA games because I am always too busy trying to beat a little old lady with a baseball bat. I realize there are supposed to be missions in GTA, but it's basically like, here's a car, run over NPCs. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like the thing I want to do.
I am the same boat. I played GTA 3, I played GTA 4, I played Vice City, San Andreas. I never passed the GTA game until GTA 5. And that's because I just played through decided to play through the missions and not just, kill everybody and run everything over and just have chaos. And of course, for the younger generation, Fortnite, because of the battle royale aspect of it, which there's a reference to Fortnite in this movie. One of the weapons that Guy uses at the end, the little hobby horse, is a weapon from Fortnite.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that. I've only ever seen people play Fortnite. I've watched some streamers play Fortnite. I've never actually played Fortnite myself.
Neither have I, but I do recognize because I have seen that hobby horse as a toy.
Okay, yeah, that's the one that I didn't get. I recognized a lot of the other references because I've played most of the video games that they reference.
There are so many references. Yeah, we get references to Portal. We get references to Mega Man. Very obvious corporate synergy references to Star Wars and Marvel.
Yeah, although I think that this one started before the buyout.
We knew the name of the movie because that was kind of announced right after Deadpool 2 came out as this was going to be Ryan Reynolds' next movie. We didn't know what it was going to be about. We just knew it was going to be called Free Guy. And then we saw the trailer and like, ooh, this is going to be good. And then 2020 happened and it got delayed a year.
There's some Half-Life references. You get the Portal gun.
There was a lot of love to video games in this movie. The people who were part of this, the people, the directors, the producers, the visual effects people, it's so many people in this movie. You can very much tell that they had a love for video games with how much care they put into the references.
Yeah, and watching this just as a gamer, I was like, there are parts of this that I was like, man, if this were a game, I would want to play this game. The outfits that a lot of the PCs, the sunglasses people, as Guy keeps referring to them, I'm like, wow, some of them are really cool. Like there's one character that you see towards the end of the film who has like this really cool punk outfit with kitty ears and everything. I was like, I kind of just want that outfit in real life.
And the reality of it is that you have this big burly dude with a big gun and he looks all tough, and then behind the screen is like a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the cute little punk chick with the kitty ears is, probably
a 40-year-old man.
Is probably like a 40-year-old bearded dude, but it doesn't matter because it's a really cool looking skin. And that's the cool thing about video games. Be whoever you want.
The advertising for this game, of course, since you have two
Film.
people. Yeah, sorry. The advertising for this movie, obviously, you have the trailers and stuff, but there was a YouTube video right before this movie came out of two characters played by actors in this movie that are technically part of the same universe now, in that we had a video of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool hosting a YouTube review show with Taika Waititi as Korg.
We also have a guest reactor this week, Korg, who was not my first choice, but apparently everyone else was too busy over on Disney Plus. Say hello, Korg.
Hello, I'm made of rocks. Thank you for having me, Paul. Sorry you're dead.
Jesus Christ.
Making it the first time that Deadpool had ever interacted with anyone from the MCU.
Yeah, and I'm kind of fascinated that they bothered to do the CGI for this video.
Yeah, it's just a 5-minute YouTube video, but I mean, the model is already made. They have it on file. All you would need is what? Taika Waititi in a mocap suit?
I mean, maybe. Korg doesn't really do a lot as far as a lot of motion. It's just them sitting on a couch.
Mhm.
So it's not a super complicated animation to do. But I'm still kind of surprised that they bothered to do it. It's a funny video. If you've never seen it, it is kind of them just mocking the trailer a little bit.
The funny thing is that Guy and Antoine never interact in this movie. So that was the only time they ever. I'm not even sure Taika Waititi was even in the room with them filming that YouTube video.
Yeah, they may have had, somebody else give a motion reference if they even needed one.
If we can get a side by side of Korg in that video and Korg in Endgame playing Fortnite.
Yeah, they may have just pulled the animation from somewhere else. You're right. I thought that was a really cool little bit of promotion. I think it was kind of savvy. If that was Ryan Reynolds' idea, it was even more savvy, because everybody's really wanting Disney to go ahead and pull the trigger on another Deadpool anyway.
He wants to do it, and everyone wants to see him do it, and Feige even said it's in the plans, so we don't know when or where, and more Deadpool, please. And if this is how Deadpool gets into the MCU, I'm all for it.
The interesting thing is that if it wasn't for Ryan Reynolds' love of Deadpool, we probably wouldn't have had this film. Possibly. Because he worked so hard to get the role of Deadpool. And, it started out with him in the,
Wolverine movie.
kind of awful Wolverine movie, where they did Deadpool so dirty. And then he worked really hard to get properly made Deadpool. The thing is that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have remained friends, because none of that was Hugh Jackman's fault, of course. The guy who directed this film, Sean Levy, was friend of Hugh Jackman, and Hugh Jackman had apparently read the script or knew about the script and hooked up Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds and was like, you guys need to do this. Bravo to Hugh Jackman, I guess, for figuring out that was kind of the sweet spot of that director and that actor and the right project.
And Jackman also makes a bit of a voice cameo in this movie. He's the he does the voice of the dude in the alley that Millie gets the info from and then shoots him in the head.
Yeah. This was one of those things that had bounced around for a few years before finding its correct group of creatives.
I can see people. like when Ready Player One was like the big thing going around Hollywood, I can see a lot of studios saying we need to do the next Ready Player One, and so I mean Ready Player One. So Ready Player One did well, so I can see other people wanting to jump and make the next Ready Player One, and this sort of kind of has the same feel. Although I think the video game aspects are better integrated in this movie than it was in Ready Player One.
This one makes a little bit more sense, I guess, in the world. It's more of a commentary on life and meaning, and a lot of people compare it to Truman Show, of course.
A little bit of The Matrix, I would also pull it in here.
Also, the idea of corporations getting a hold of your work. I personally watch a lot of James Stephanie Sterling and the Jimquisition on YouTube, which talks a lot about video games and how they're made in video game companies. And boy, the character that Taika Waititi plays, wow. Yeah.
The last year alone, we've seen both Sony and Microsoft absorbing several different smaller video game companies into themselves. We have this character, Antoine, purchasing the rights to these characters' games and kind of screwing them over, but because he uses it as the base for the game in the movie and never gives them credit for it, which is the reason they're so angry. They just want their credit.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll get into that a little bit more, as we talk about the plot, but boy, there are some interesting parallels to some real world stuff. You want to do a cast rundown real quick, and then we can talk some more about the...
Sure. It's not a big main cast, but there's some names in here, so let's go through them.
Yeah, I mean, we've already been talking about Ryan Reynolds. Everybody knows Ryan Reynolds by now. Started out in comedies. You may remember the sitcom he started out in, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, and then I guess they lost the pizza place and it became Two Guys and a Girl. I don't know. I never really watched the show. It kind of gave us Nathan Fillion as well. I guess that was his first big thing. The only thing I remember about that show is I watched one episode and the girl was sitting between the two guys and they were laughing at her for something. And she looked at one of them and she was like, if you don't stop laughing, I will rip your arm off. And the first guy stops laughing and the other guy keeps laughing. And she turns to the other guy and she goes, and I will beat you to death with it. Then the other guy stops. And I've just always really liked that line. All these years later, I still use that line on people. I don't know why. That was always the one funny thing to come out of that. But yeah, then he did a lot of comedies and rom-coms and
the superhero movie that should not be named. Several of them, actually. There's a few superhero movies that should not be named starring Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. And then he did Deadpool, and Deadpool is awesome.
And then he was a Pokemon.
Yeah.
That actually is a good movie if you haven't seen it.
Well, it's got some problematic aspects, so maybe not. But Deadpool, I like Deadpool. Deadpool's good.
And like in Deadpool 2, he also plays a CG version of himself, as he does the facial animation for Dude, much like he did the voice of Juggernaut in Deadpool 2.
Yeah. What more can you say about him, really? Generally cool Canadian dude who makes a really good Deadpool.
I hope Deadpool 3 happens soon. That's all I can say.
Yeah, playing our other main character in this, we've got Jodie Comer as Millie, aka Molotov Girl.
Mostly British stuff. She is a British actress.
Yeah. So she is in Killing Eve, which I have not seen. Lately, her other major film last year was in The Last Duel, which I don't think I know anybody that's seen that.
And for the Disney connection, she was in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker and the flashback scene as Rey's mother.
Yeah, she's apparently Rey's mother. I mean, she has been in quite a few things. Like you said, a lot of stuff that's been English stuff, British TV and theater. A lot of stuff I just have not had the chance to see. But I hear amazing things about Killing Eve. Might get around to watching that one day. She's very good in this, though. So I was quite impressed.
Only gets to use her accent for a little bit of this movie.
Yeah, they make a joke about Molotov Girl having a accent filter, which is a cool thing that I hope video games with voice chat do one day. That would be awesome.
You would just not even turn that off. We'd have this entire podcast with you with a English filter on.
Or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'd go with if that were an option. She also does the cover version of Fantasy that is used for part of the film.
But it's just a sweet, sweet fantasy, baby. When I close my eyes, you come and take me.
Yeah, who knew Mariah Carey's song would be a plot point?
Yeah. It's also the first time I can actually understand the lyrics to that song. I have been singing those lyrics wrong for like 20 years. But anyway, really nice cover version. She's got a good voice. As the her programmer buddy who helped program the original code for the game, we've got Joe Keery as Keys, and if you've ever seen Stranger Things, you will recognize him. He's Steve in Stranger Things. So as Buddy, one of the other NPCs and Guy's best friend, we have Lil Rel, who I absolutely loved in Get Out. I think that's probably like his standout performance for me.
Also he's really good in Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oh yeah. I honestly had blanked on that, but yeah. Of course he also has his own TV series as well. Rel. I really did not know much about him until I saw him in Get Out. And then, of course, you're right. He was excellent in Judas and the Black Messiah.
For the Disney connection, he did voice a character in one episode of the Rapunzel animated series.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen any of the episodes of that. So yeah, and he's really good in this, being the balance to Guy. You know, Guy wants to break out of his loop, and Buddy is just kind of chill being where he is. Moving along, rounding out our kind of main cast, we have Utkarsh Ambudkar, who plays Mouser, who is the coder who works next to Keys at the Tsunami Studio on Free City. And
he has a couple of Disney connections.
Yeah, he really does.
He was in the 2020 Mulan, although his scene was cut. He was in the Disney Plus movie Godmothered, which I have not seen.
Yeah.
And
also, now he's in the Hulu series The Dropout.
And he's also in the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of Disney connections.
People may know him as well for his roles in Pitch Perfect. Recently, he's just been in Tick, Tick, Boom. And probably his biggest role right now is he's currently starring in Ghosts on CBS as the boyfriend of the main character who can see all the ghosts. And I am absolutely loving him on that series. He also occasionally for our gamer geeks at least our tabletop gamer geeks, he did the Force Grey series with Matt Mercer. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that may be how there ended up being an episode of Ghosts where his character ended up being really into D&D and discovered that one of the ghosts also used to play D&D when he was alive and ends up bringing one of the ghosts from the 80s who hadn't played D&D since AD&D was out, and he ended up being like, oh no man, there's like 5th edition now, let me introduce you to 5th edition, and him and the ghosts end up playing D&D. So it was a really good episode. So he's pretty funny in this film too. You're never quite sure if he's a good guy or a bad guy, but definitely in the bad guy sense, as he is our main villain for the film. You, of course, have Taika Waititi as Antoine. We have talked about Taika Waititi several times on the show, so not going to go back over it again. But he is definitely our villain in this. And now, after watching this film, I just really want to see Taika Waititi play like just a straight up supervillain.
He could do it too. Like comic book supervillain, mustache twirling supervillain.
Well, actually, though, I gotta say, it's not a Disney thing because it's over on HBO Max, but maybe go watch Our Flag Means Death. He plays Blackbeard, and while not 100% villainous all the time, I mean, Blackbeard is a vicious pirate, and he occasionally slips into being a vicious pirate. I'm just gonna say he has his moments, and I really, really, really want to see Taika Waititi play like a traditional, absolute, like, cape-wearing supervillain at this point.
Marvel has a lot of them, and again, he's already Korg, but you know, an actual character where we could see its face. There's enough.
Yeah, like I just want to see like live action, you know, Taika Waititi, like yeah, just put him in like, you know, all black, maybe some green cape. Just have him go out there and get his evil on. That'd be absolutely great. And then this is just filled with cameos, this whole thing. The biggest one is probably Channing Tatum, who keeps showing up over and over again. He is the in-game avatar of one of the gamers who keeps showing up, Revengeman Buttons.
I love that name.
Yeah.
It's a dumb name, but it that is the kind of name that someone makes up when they're 12 and they're still using it when they're 20 and 30.
Yeah. And it's a great little comedy bit because you get Channing Tatum saying all these lines that you know. The gamer that is controlling him is played by Mehdi Cartapol. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but who plays the other end of that so funny. But you know, when you see Channing Tatum, like, you know, kind of drop the, you know, kind of bad guy, tough guy act and go into that.
Mom, get out of my room!
Yeah, Mom, don't touch that sock, Mom. You will need therapy. You know, some of that, and then doing the silly dances, and you know,
yeah, he does the floss during the ending credits.
Yeah, it's a really good.
Again, another Fortnite reference.
So it's a really good bit because you know where it's coming from at that point because you've seen the other end of that. And I like that he's portraying both sides of that. And he does it so well. And then they have a lot of Twitch and YouTube gamer streamers, which are really fascinating. Because when I was first watching the film, I was like, wait a minute.
I know that person.
Yeah. Really the only ones, I don't watch a lot of streamers. But the one that kind of shocked me was Jacksepticeye, because I actually do watch him. So when he came on stream, I was like, wait a minute. But I had heard of Ninja before, even though I don't watch him.
Yeah, I remember thinking about Ninja, that he was like one of the first video game streamers to have an exclusive deal with Twitch, and that was one of the big stories for a while.
Yeah. And the other ones, like, I didn't really know them, but good for them. I mean, you know. And I'm sure their fans were probably, freaking out. Like,
yeah, I mean that's another showing of the love of video games. You could have gotten any actors to play these streamers, but they went out and got actual video game streamers to be in this movie.
yeah, and they actually used their setups.
Yeah.
They used the aesthetics of their own setups. So when the screen goes to showing, whatever, they actually use the same framing and the same, graphics and everything that each of these streamers do, where their windows are placed and what their, home studio setup looks like and all that kind of, which is really cool. And, we've already mentioned Hugh Jackman, and Tina Fey comes in as the voice of the mother.
Yeah, of Channing Tatum's mom.
Yeah, Channing Tatum's gamer's mom. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the second bank robber that we see. The voice, at least, the body is somebody else. John Krasinski provides the voice of one of the silhouetted gamers that we see. Of course, we get Chris Evans in that big moment.
Yeah, when we get the because if you're gonna put Captain America's shield in your movie, you need Captain America to kind of go, what is going on here?
And
language.
Yeah, and they have a cameo by Alex Trebek that ended up unfortunately being posthumous.
Yeah.
And his final film role. Because the film was delayed, it ended up coming out after Alex Trebek passed.
Which is funny because Trebek had a history of kind of on his own show looking down at nerd culture. Several nerdcore rappers had written songs about kind of shouting out Trebek for looking down on nerd culture. And here he is in a movie about nerd culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a thing. So, there you go. You're always kind of gonna be tied to it, dude. But yeah, there were a lot of cameos here and there. We've probably missed some, but let's get into talking about the plot and what we liked about it, what worked, what didn't.
You mentioned the Truman Show, and I agree, because much like Truman Show, we have this world where one of the citizens in this world learns that their world is fictional. It's not real. And that's why I also put the Matrix, because, it's also, hey, this isn't real. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And it's, how would you feel if you woke up one day to realize your life was not real, that you were just a fictional character in someone else's narrative? I would want to question with the creator behind my life, because they're not very good at being creative.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I think if I personally woke up and discovered that, I would feel relieved, because it would answer a lot of questions and it would give me someone's butt to kick. Like, at this point, it would be a relief. I'd be like, oh, thank goodness. It's interesting that from the beginning, Guy kind of realizes that there is a tier system in his world.
Yeah, there are the sunglass people and everyone else. Like right at the beginning, which I believe it is Channing Tatum's character that we see.
Yeah.
That he just flies down in, he grabs a car, he grabs a girl, and he starts shooting. And he says, that's not even his car. That's not even his wife. And I don't think he's going to get back either.
Yeah.
And it's like, so he knows that there's, the sunglass people get to do whatever they want, and everybody else has to do the same thing every day because that's life.
But honestly, when I was first watching the film, all I could think of was like, but isn't that just rich people though? Because he even says the thing about like, well, for the sunglasses people, the laws aren't laws, they're just the vague guidelines. And when I first saw the film, I was like, but isn't that just rich people though? Don't you feel that a lot in your life? Like,
yeah, there are people who just can do whatever they want and nothing happens to them, and everybody else has to follow the rules.
But also the loop. Like, our jobs are very repetitive, and we do basically the same thing week in, week out with very little variation. I'm guessing probably that if either of us had a larger bank account, we would take a lot of trips or do things or do different jobs that had more variety to them.
I do more than buy a pair of shoes like Guy does.
Yeah, well, I mean, I might buy a good pair of shoes, first off, because that would probably help my, various leg pains, but...
And then, because it's always a girl, isn't it? It's always a girl. And I love the entire plot point through that because, as we see later in the film, as Keith says, he needed to program Guy after somebody. So he programs Guy essentially after himself, perpetually dreaming about a girl he'll never meet, which we find out is Millie. The girl that likes bubblegum ice cream, the girl that likes the coffee, the girl that likes Mariah Carey songs. And then once he meets the real Millie, everything changes. Because in his mind, he has met the one person he thought he'd never meet, the one person he's waited for, which starts Guy's evolution. He no longer wants to go through the same thing over and over again. His programming evolves in a very much, no one's talked about it, but this is very much in the same vein of Short Circuit, how number 5 evolves through that, learning more about human life.
Yeah, because that's the whole point of the thing, is that the base code for this game was taken from something that wasn't supposed to be a game, really. They play part of an interview with Keys and Millie, which is that they had been working on something that wasn't a game necessarily. You didn't play it, you observed it. And the idea was to watch the evolution of AI. They had created this thing called life itself, and they were going to put various types of potential AI and watch them evolve. And Guy just happened to be one of those potential types of AI. And then when Tsunami and Antoine bought their code, they used those bits of AI as the basis for NPC loops. Antoine is apparently not a coder, or not a creator of anything. He seems to be a guy who had money to buy some stuff, which this was what I was talking about earlier, that this is what is paralleling things. At several points during the movie, including the final thing when we kind of finally get the hero moment from Mouser, is that he finally sees Antoine for what he is, that he didn't create anything. He's got the title of, like, developer or whatever of the video game, but he never creates anything. And that's what Mouser realizes at the end, is that he just took the code and basically put a skin over it, and then hired some other people to, start building on top of it.
I think it's Mouse that also says, it would be much easier just to create a new game than it is to make a sequel to this game. And then Antoine turns around and said, people don't want new. They want sequels, and they want something based off IP, and this is both.
Yeah, and he has that whole, kind of hilarious line about Kentucky Fried Chicken and Albuquerque boiled turkey. But the thing is that this is what we are getting in video games right now. And it's the primary, not the primary issue with video games. The primary issue with video games right now is the abusive way in which employees of video game companies are being treated.
Which you see in this movie as well.
Which you do see in this movie as well, to a very minor extent. Let me be clear about that. The abuses in the video game industry towards their employees are horrific. But one of the other major problems, at least as far as originality and intellectual property, and we see that in Hollywood a little bit too, is that the idea is that the name recognition is the only thing that matters. And this is portrayed very, very well in this film. I kind of want to kiss them for how well they portray this in the film with Antoine. Because they're showing that they're rolling out this sequel. The code in it doesn't work. Nothing is backwards compatible. They're not keeping any of the promises to the player base. Like, we're going to have the same characters come in. Oh, you're going to be able to bring your skins from the previous game and your items from the previous game into the end. Antoine says, oh yeah, I was totally lying about that. We're not going to do any of that stuff and all that kind of stuff, which are all things that have been happening in video games recently. These are all things that have been happening with other MMOs and other games and stuff. This is all real stuff that has been happening if you don't play video games. And so the fact that they're just basically having Antoine do things that actual game company CEOs have done recently was a brilliant move. Because it makes him so realistic as a villain, because he's actually doing things that these real guys have been doing.
And you talk about the abuse. We do kind of see a little bit of it where he's saying, hey, I want blue shirt guy in the new game. Can you code him in? Like, we're already behind schedule on coding, and it's going to take us a while to code an entire character. I don't care. Do it.
Yeah, there's the issue with the crunch, as they call it, which is where game programmers and coders are expected to just stay at their desk for the weeks and months before a game comes out and just not have a life.
You know,
Other than
24-hour days, working weekends and all that stuff, you know, like,
you know, work through holidays and work through, you know, not have any sleep and not you know, nap at your desk and keep going and live off of Red Bull and coffee and, you know, to the point where people are having mental breakdowns and being hospitalized, and, you know, it's actually causing, you know, medical issues for people, but it's considered normal, you know. It's just, that's just what you do before a game launches, of course, you know. And to not be willing to do that, to not be willing to sacrifice your health like that is considered.
We see it in the video game industry, even in the film industry, where a studio will set a hard date for something to be released, and we're not changing that date. You will work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with little to no sleep and little to no food until we're done, because this game needs to be out by Christmas.
And there's a lot of, you know, cutting corners and a lot of, you know, I mean, we really saw it with something like Cyberpunk or whatever, where they just decided that people would buy it on the recognition of the name Cyberpunk and the fact that Keanu Reeves was playing a character in it. And they didn't care that it was still full of bugs and everything. So they just decided to push out the game, and then, oh, we'll fix all those bugs in patches later and stuff. And it was so impossible to play that most people couldn't play it on like
day one.
On day one on like their PlayStation. Like, you put it on a PlayStation, you couldn't even play it. And then a lot of people bought, like, you know, a $60 or $70 game, and then they realized that to be able to play it, you had to have like a $3,000 computer, which is nuts. So the interesting thing is that game is going to be beautiful to play in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Once the hardware price drops enough that people can actually afford the system to play that game on, it's going to experience an amazing renaissance in 10 years. Once it's patched and people can afford the system to play it on, in 10 or 15 years, that game is going to be the new hotness. But, you know, what Antoine is seen doing here is exactly what happens in the video game industry every single day, because they just front load the game of like, you want to buy this game, and then people buy the game and they discover they've bought a broken product, and the game company doesn't care, the CEO doesn't care, because they've got your money now, and it doesn't matter that you've got a broken product. And there's not really, the law hasn't really caught up with the fact of like how to allow the consumer to, you know, get their money back for a broken product like this. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to see the movie portray a real world villain in such a realistic kind of way. I noticed something in my rewatch that I didn't see the first time around, because, you know, since he's an NPC, he keeps respawning back in his bedroom every time he dies. So there's the whole leveling up montage where every time he dies, he keeps waking up back in his bedroom. And I didn't notice it, but, you know, he pulls the sunglasses from the first robber and he wears them for the first time. But after he gets shot the first time, he wears a different pair of sunglasses, and you realize that he has to go out and get a new pair of sunglasses every time, because he doesn't respawn with the sunglasses because he's an NPC.
It's not in his coding.
Yeah, but now that he knows the secret of the sunglasses, he's apparently just going out and finding random players and ganking their sunglasses. So
What if
every
he's-
time you see him respawn, he's wearing a different pair of sunglasses.
When in doubt, he's taking them off low-level players.
Yeah, so there's probably just a whole bunch of noobs that just keep getting like wasted by Guy throughout the course of the game. Which I kind of like. I wonder if that's become like a mark of honor throughout the...
My glasses just got taken by blue shirt guy. Awesome.
Yeah, like, holy crap, did you just get ganked by blue shirt guy? Awesome. The cool thing about the plot of the film to me is that we've got Guy, and not only does his interaction with Millie spark the part of his code that hits the evolution, that was originally intended, but his little changes start sparking things in the other characters around him.
There's the one character that is the de facto girlfriend character. And Guy tells him, hey, you don't need to hang around with these, bad guys if you don't want to. And then it sparks something in her. Well, I don't need to hang around with any guy if I don't want to. Yeah. And we find out later in the movie that this character has done this manifesto on toxic men. Guy talks to the barista saying, he makes a suggestion of maybe I can drink a cappuccino today instead of my regular coffee. And that sparks something in the barista that she starts through trial and error learning how to make different coffee variations. So, the entire game is changing. The NPCs' personas are changing because of Guy's interaction with them, sparking their evolutions.
I like that even though it's more subtle with Buddy, his interactions with Buddy do the same kind of thing.
He's scared at first. Buddy's scared at first. He doesn't want change. Guy offers him the glasses, saying, here, put them on, please. Because he wants his best friend by his side. And he says, I can't do it. I can't. But when we get to the end, he's with the other NPC saying, that he's tired of doing the same thing day after day after day. And at the end, he's the one with Guy running across that bridge.
Yeah. While he doesn't want to be one of the sunglasses people, and he never does put on the sunglasses, he does want to do smaller things. He wants to be there for his friend. He wants to go up and give dude a hug. He wants to do all these kind of smaller things.
Now that you mentioned dude, is it me or is Buddy? Buddy makes a quip of how dude is Guy but better. You think Buddy has a little feeling for Guy that he can only bring out by kind of filling up on the muscles of dude? That's the impression that I got, that he's kind of hiding away some feelings. Maybe it's just me.
You know what? I don't know. I mean, if you want to read that into it, I'm not going to stop you. I didn't particularly get it, but okay. Am I the only one who every time that they were like, make Guy but better, and somehow better meant like jacked?
That
I
sounds
was
like an
just
Antoine
like,
thing. Antoine says he programmed dude himself.
Well, yeah, I know, but like multiple people make that same, like maybe not in those exact words, but because Antoine says it and Buddy says it, and other people kind of make reference to that, including Guy.
I think it's the male power fantasy.
I Yeah, I know. It just, but when I saw that, I was like, oh, you ruined Guy. Ugh. You know, like
I mean,
I don't
the
know.
male power fantasy is, the better me is the more physically fit me, the stronger me, the physically stronger me. And that's really where it comes from. The better me to another person might be more kind, more gentle, more intelligent, but the male power fantasy is bigger, stronger, raw, me man.
I don't know. Have you ever seen like the strongest dude in the world contest guys?
Yeah, I mean,
They do not look like that.
there's power muscles and there's show muscles. And the show muscles seem to be the more acceptable form, the better looking version of, this is what power looks like. The pro wrestler model, if you want to go in that direction. Where
Yeah.
if everyone looked like, like there's a difference between the Arnold Schwarzenegger physique and like a power lifter like Mark Henry or something,
But I like that they did the thing for dude where he has the tattoo
of the
of
shirt.
the blue shirt. That made me laugh.
There's three things I like: kicking ass, TBA, and a third thing.
Yeah. I do like the final fight where it looks like it's gonna come down just purely to brawn, which of them punches hardest or has the best weapon. But then I like that Guy ends up more using his brain.
Yeah, he puts the glasses on dude, and that simplistic mind of dude sees all the bright colors and just goes after the pretty colors because he's got the brains of oatmeal.
Yeah, but I also I don't know why it plays Greatest American Hero at the end.
Yeah, what I would have. What song would you have put in that spot? Maybe Sunshine Day by the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, just it's something bright and colorful, I guess. But I like the ending. To me, it's a good ending because I like that it ends with dude just being happy. I like that since he's based on Guy's code, theoretically that means that he's capable of growth.
Possibly, again, but he's a very simplistic, game-minded character. There is potential that he could evolve into a fully formed person. Again, we don't really see it in the film. Maybe, and we know that there's going to be a sequel. They did say that there's going to be a Free Guy 2. So maybe if dude is in the sequel, they would show him evolving into a more complete person.
Notice that my saying of growth doesn't mean that I'm saying like he becomes a rocket scientist or anything. What I'm saying is that he was sent in there to punch, and by the end he's rooting for Guy in his mission.
Yeah.
Which means that he has some form of personal choice. I like that ending because I've seen a lot of people criticizing the ending because it's like, oh, great fan service. But my whole thing is like, what's wrong with fan service? In this case, it was in service of the film as well. There is a foreshadowing to this moment when Millie/Molotov says a few things to him. She brings up like the portal gun to him in the stash at the beginning of the film when she's talking about leveling up and everything. He says, "Ooh, that sounds expensive." We know that there's all these kind of things, and we know that games like Fortnite and stuff like that have all these tie-in.
And I think that's what this game is doing.
Things.
At some point, there was a Free City Marvel collaboration or a Star Wars collaboration or a Fortnite collaboration or a Mega Man collaboration. And those things are still in the code.
Yeah.
And yeah, Guy just has access to that code.
yeah, he's picked up things from various other, players he's defeated or bought them in the player store or whatever. Or maybe Millie or Keys have downloaded them to his programming in order to help him.
What I think is, we see Keys take one of the buildings in the game and makes the bridge out of it. So I don't think they're inserting anything new. They're just repurposing what's already in the game. Yeah. So I think those tie-ins are already in the game. They may not be active to players anymore, but that doesn't mean they're not in the game somewhere.
Well, yeah, but there are lots of things that are, prestige items in various games that, sometimes you run across a player that has them and you're like, oh, I see when you were playing and what quests you completed, because there are certain skins for games or whatever that, it's like, oh, I see you were playing during the 2008, Christmas event or whatever, it's like, because that's the only time that skin was available. It is like, sometimes it's a little bit of clout, depending on how long you've been playing the game or whatever. So, Guy is still relatively new as a player. So it seems weird that he has all these things. But then again, maybe he's been either taking them from other players or, the coders have been kind of slipping him little gifts.
It's possible it's possible that Keys has been, made a special pair of glasses just for a guy that has access to the old tie-ins. And that's where he gets it from. I don't know.
Yeah. But, either way, it's like, well, in the world they've established, all of this makes sense. Even down to the fact that, like, the Avengers theme plays when he pulls out the shield. Because a lot of these items in games, sometimes when you pull them out, there will be special music that plays.
I wouldn't doubt that, again, in the world of this game, that if you use Captain America's shield, it'll play the Avengers theme.
Yeah. Or if you pull out a lightsaber, it'll play a little bit of the Star Wars theme. To me, like, yeah, it's fan service and it's goofy, but that's one, kind of the point of the movie, and two, it makes sense in the world of a video game. I don't know, and it kind of makes sense to me more than it did in Ready Player One even.
That's why I say I think the integration of the references makes more sense here than it did in Ready Player One.
Yeah, so, and also it's there for 5 seconds of screen time and then it's gone, and it doesn't really stop the plot, But
God.
But I like that they have the idea that Antoine gets the whole thing of, well, if I can't stop Guy in the game, I've lost control of the game. The NPCs are on digital strike because they've started to self-actualize, which I love that idea. Mm-hmm. We've had to boot all the players from the game because they're rooting for Guy. And so now he's taken an axe to the servers themselves to just destroy the servers running the game.
Yeah, he was going to shut the game down anyway, so it's not really a loss, because he was going to shut the game down anyway, so just physically destroying the servers, he was going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and he's physically removed both Keys and Mouser from the place after Mouser finally turns on him, realizing, oh yeah, you did actually steal their code and didn't give them credit or a share of the profits. And you didn't actually create anything, you just bought it and claimed credit for it. I like that, Millie sneaks in with the distraction of Keys live streaming. We see that even though all the players have been booted, so the streamers can't stream the game anymore. But somehow Keys...
He was just fired, so his privileges as a developer on the game haven't been revoked yet.
Yeah, but somehow Keys figures out a way to live stream what's going on in the game to the entire world, which
he still has access through the private server of employees, so he's just using it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's streaming it to or how people are getting this feed, but okay.
They didn't want to pay Twitch.
Yeah. While everyone else is distracted, including the security guards who have been distracted by
Buddy's sacrifice.
Yeah, Buddy's sacrifice. Poor Buddy. She gets in and is able to stop Antoine from destroying the last server by saying, I'll drop my lawsuit. I'll let you have the technical rights to the code in Free City. You can keep the Free City name. You can keep all the money to Free City. It's all yours. It's all the millions, all the everything, all yours. Just give me this server.
Give me my code back, pretty much.
Yeah, I want this server. Just let me do whatever I want with this server. And you can keep all the rest of it. All the IP, whatever. I don't give a crap about the money. I just give me this server.
Meanwhile, Antoine, who has been nothing but about the money the entire movie, doesn't see, hey, you're throwing away millions of dollars just for your stupid game. Meanwhile, I'll make millions off Free City too. Which, as we see in the end, is not what happens, because Free City 2 releases as a buggy POS, and essentially Tsunami is ruined because they released a really, really bad game. You know how bad a game has to be to ruin a studio? Because usually a studio can bounce back from one bad game.
Well, it seems like this might be the only thing Tsunami has going for it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Millie and Keys and now Mouser, who's joined them, have taken the original coding from that they made for Life Itself, released it as its own game, and is now a really success. They say it's like the most successful independent game out there. Who knew people just wanted to watch a game rather than play it?
Keys, though, said to her once he realized what Guy was, that he was the first self-actualized AI, he realized that they might be up for like the Nobel Prize.
And when the news comes out that Guy is a self-realized AI, that only makes him more popular.
Yeah, and I mean, if they realize tomorrow that there's like a computer program that was fully sentient and you could log on and talk to it in a video game,
and it will talk back,
would you not want to go talk to that character?
Yeah.
Like if Guy was real, you would absolutely be, if it was like, you can log into World of Warcraft right now and talk to a, night elf, but it's a sentient creature. I would absolutely be turning my WoW account back on right now.
This is such a love letter to video games. Again, it's a better love letter to video games than Ready Player One is.
Yeah, I like the one thing of like him saving the one guy and then immediately the guy getting shot in teabag.
Yeah. That would happen in a video game.
Yeah.
So it's like the respect that the creators of this film had for video games. And there are people who have kind of said, they didn't like the movie and all that, but it's like, I wonder if those are people who kind of don't value video games as art forms, because there are people who don't. We've seen that. But I think that if you're a gamer and you watch this movie, it is a love letter to video games. And I love it for it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this was a hilarious movie the first time I watched it. I thought it was a hilarious movie the second time I watched it, and I caught a lot more of the background stuff and the more subtle stuff the second time around. So, yeah.
So, let's ask the question. Kiki, does Free Guy have the magic?
I would say yes.
I would agree. This definitely has the magic, and like I said, if you're a gamer, this is definitely something you should watch. And yeah, pure love letter to video games.
And I think even if you're not a gamer, I think it explains itself enough that you would still find it funny.
Yeah. So let's move on to next week. Kiki, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks worth of movies from the last year. This is called Rewatching the Magic. I think it's time to go back a few years, further than that. And talking about a movie that has an upcoming sequel, and a movie that I've wanted to talk about for a while, Enchanted.
Yeah, we just finished deconstructing video games. Time to deconstruct the princess movie.
So come back next week for Enchanted, and we will talk to you all then. And don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Yeah. Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic.
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic.
And of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.